Well, controversy dogging the NDP party, and Sarah McIntyre joins us. This is the story of the satellite offices. Maybe we should go through the story first, because I think a lot of Canadians either forgot it or didn't pay attention.
Yeah, it's a very Ottawa-centric story because it deals basically with the allocation of resources by party members. So the NDP, when they got elected, of course, in 2011, they had a majority of their members from Quebec. And so they used some of their parliamentary resources to set up what's called, they called them satellite offices. And these offices were ostensibly for parliamentary work. However, it was revealed later that the party was actually paying some of the lease for this office space. And in fact, some of the staff that were working there were engaged in partisan work. So a complaint went forward to what's called the Board of Internal Economy. This is some small committee that's in Ottawa. It's representative of all the different parties. So it has the NDP, it has the Liberals and the Conservatives, and they conduct investigations with respect to misallocations of House of Commons resources. All of that said, they looked into it and they found that the NDP were in fact breaking the rules with respect to allocating parliamentary resources for partisan activities. So you get a certain amount of money to help you do constituency work, help MPs, do outreach to their ridings, and then there is separately activities related to your work as a party. So,
but that's supposed to be paid for separately by the party,
exactly,
as opposed to by the House of Commons, right?
That's right, and this is the crux of the issue: is that the NDP is saying that this was actually work they were doing, parliamentary work, that they weren't doing partisan work. There was the investigation. The findings came out yesterday that in fact the BOE, these internal economy members, found that in fact the NDP had broke the rules. But I'll say this, the rules are very vague with respect to...
I was just going to say that because it'd be easy enough to say, you know what, instead of spending it on this flight to this area, we're going to go to Winnipeg instead, just as an example. It'd be confusing. You'd have to have a lot of accounting in place to say exactly what you were doing on each flight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think that there are vague, the rules are kept vague on purpose. They're vague with respect to the Senate expenses, as we've learned from Pamela Wallin and Mike Duffy and Patrick Brazeau and Mac Harb, that they're pretty vague so that members can kind of claim a willful ignorance or a blissful ignorance if they get caught perhaps misusing resources. But this is the crux of the issue, is that they've used House of Commons resources for partisan activities. That is the big no-no. So instead of actually having your party paying for things to solicit members or communicate certain things to your party members, they were actually not using the party budget. They were using the parliamentary budget.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. Going forward, the NDP has still claimed that they've done nothing wrong and that they're actually going to be fighting this in a federal court.
So they're appealing this decision?
Yes, yeah. They're saying that they've got their own lawyers and that they think that this was just basically the Liberals and the Conservatives ganging up on them to try and bankrupt them before the election, and that they're actually going to fight it in a federal court. So
okay, but I thought the BOE was a multi-party.
It is, yeah.
Oh, it is, okay.
It is, but it's the number of members are apportioned by representation in the House. So obviously there's more Conservative members. You take that, add that to the end with the Liberals, there's a majority on the committee. So even though the NDP is on the committee, they don't have a majority control of it. They only have a couple of members, including Nicole Turmel, the former interim leader for the NDP. She's on that committee, but they can't affect the outcome because they don't have a majority of members. So if you add up the Conservative members and the Liberal members, that's a majority.
Okay. Now it's adding up to $2.75 million,
yes,
right?
It's big change.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm surprised actually it got that big, but by the same, who's on the hook for it?
Well, if you average it out over the number of NDP members, it would be on average $30,000 per NDP member. But
these are sitting members in the House of Commons that are
correct.
Responsible for this.
Yeah.
Why not the party?
Well, this is where they're going to have to get the money. They're going to have to get the money from somewhere. It'll be up to the NDP to determine where that money comes from. It could come from party coffers. It could come from individuals in their own House of Commons budgets. But some members are responsible for more. For example, they're alleging that the leader is responsible for $400,000 of that 2.75 million. Why is that? Because the leader has a bigger budget because they're leader of the official opposition. So they have more duties and functions related to parliamentary work. So had a bigger budget, so they contributed more to these satellite offices. So it'll be up to the NDP to determine how and who pays back what. But I suspect that this will be in the courts, or at least in some type of negotiation and settlement all the way up until October 2015, because I don't think the NDP has any intention whatsoever of paying this money back.
Yeah, well, Tom Mulcair is a lawyer.
Yeah.
He's not going to go down.
And he's very
with
good
that.
at it. He's very prosecutorial, as we've seen him in the House that way. So I suspect that they won't have to pay that back. But remember, they were forced to pay back $1.17 million in what's called the misuse of franking privileges. This was just last year as well. So taking those two numbers together, $3.5 million is a big chunk in any party budget, but particularly in an election year. So they're going to be fighting this one tooth and nail.
Yeah. And tell me they're not good spenders out there.
If it's your money, they're really good spenders, right, Pat?
Or House of Commons money in
Yeah.
that particular case. Sarah, great to have you here.
Thanks.